Thoughts create emotions. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And this is one of the most important things to ever understand in life. Because if you understand that your thoughts create your emotions in almost all of the cases, and you can learn how to control your thoughts, it gives you control over your emotions. So one of the first questions that a lot of people ask when it comes to emotions is, should they be trusted? Because there's two very common beliefs that contradict each other. The first one is you should always trust your emotions. If your thoughts are one thing and your emotions are another, then you should listen to your emotions. Trust your gut. Then the other common belief is that feelings are irrational and can't be trusted. And so, which is it? In reality, they're both wrong. Emotions and feelings are neither right nor wrong, accurate or not accurate. Emotions are simply your body's reaction to what you're thinking, whether you're thinking on purpose or not. Your belief system and other unconscious thoughts are happening on autopilot all the time, and often triggering emotions within you. That's why sometimes you have no idea why you feel the way you do. And so here's an example of why emotions are never either right or wrong, because they're just reacting to your thoughts. So think about something that you don't have that you want. You might be thinking that you're unhappy because you don't have it, but that's really not true. You're unhappy because of the thought of not having it. So ask yourself, have you ever been happy while not having it? So if you've been happy and you don't have it, then the fact that you don't have it isn't causing your unhappiness. Think about this. If you didn't have it, but you didn't care that you didn't have it, would you be unhappy? Or if you didn't have it, but you were doing something that kept you from thinking about it, such as going down a roller coaster, would you be unhappy about it? No, of course not. You'd be screaming. You'd be focused on the roller coaster. You wouldn't be thinking about this thing that you don't have, and therefore it wouldn't be able to make you unhappy. You see, not having what you want doesn't make you feel bad. Thinking about it makes you feel bad. So where do emotions come from? In almost all cases, it is our thoughts that create our emotions. Sometimes our unconscious mind and senses are picking up cues from our environment that trigger our emotions, such as reading a person's body language or facial expression, or having an automatic emotional response when we sense danger or fear. So sometimes our body is responding to our environment. This causes an emotion. However, the rest of the time, this is not the case. Most of the time, it is not the outside world or the situation that is causing our emotional reaction. It is the mental filter that the situation passes through, also known as our interpretation or perspective, that then causes our emotional reaction to the situation. So the way it works is the situation happens, we interpret the situation through our thoughts, and then we experience the emotion. In psychology, this idea is referred to as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT is empirically tested and used in therapy, life coaching, and organizational psychology. CBT uses strategies to interrupt unhealthy thought patterns and use positive self-talk and imagery to redirect the patient's thinking in order to change their mood. The key to understanding this is that CBT provides evidence that we have control over our thoughts. And if we have control over our thoughts, we can control our emotions. It may be challenging to do this, but it is a skill that can be learned. And here's the process of how it works. You recognize the emotion. You identify the thought that was leading to the emotion. Then you can change your thought, and therefore it changes the emotion. Changing your thinking in order to change your emotion is the purpose of this video, and there are two ways to do this. The first is focusing on something else, also known as distracting yourself. When you're experiencing an undesirable emotion and identify that the cause is what you're thinking about, your first line of defense is to literally just change the subject of your thinking, like you would change the subject of a conversation with another person if it's going nowhere good. Sometimes the best way to feel better is to focus instead on something that feels better. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Stop thinking about the thoughts that are triggering your negative emotions, and then the emotions will stop. Just like the example I gave with the thing that you don't have that you want makes you feel bad, but it really doesn't unless you're thinking about it. Thinking about something positive, on the other hand, makes you feel good. This is great, and it works, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes thoughts aren't going to go away that easily. They have momentum. They're strong enough that you can't distract yourself from them. The situation you're judging in your mind might be right in your face. It might be persistent. It might be something that you can't get away from. In that situation, you can possibly reach for a new perspective that helps you think differently about the situation and therefore feel better. And so that is the second way that you can change your emotional state, through changing your thoughts. And that is finding a new perspective. So when you can't just distract yourself or think about something else, you can change the way you look at the thing that's bothering you. And when you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at change. Even in the same situation or with the same facts, if you change your viewpoint, your experience of the situation will change. Here's an example. A man was visiting a friend's house and went into the kitchen to make some tea. He didn't find a tea kettle, and so he poured water into a glass coffee carafe and placed it on the gas stove. He returned to the living room, and within a couple minutes, he smelled something burning, and he ran into the kitchen, and the handle of the carafe had caught on fire. So he quickly put the fire out, and he apologized to his friend, and he was feeling both embarrassed and guilty. But his friend, on the other hand, was laughing and actually complimented him on his fireman skills. You see, it was the same situation, a fire in the kitchen, but because these two people had different perspectives, one of them was miserable and embarrassed and guilty, and the other one was laughing and thought it was hysterical. So the difference in the emotional responses had nothing to do with the situation. It was 100% due to the perspective that they took of the situation.